Since the dawn of civilization, mankind has been out here struggling, sweating, pushing the envelope of innovation just to feel something. First, somebody invented the wheel. Beautiful. A circle. It got us from point A to point B. But let's face it, point B was boring. So, mankind had to spice it up. We built the automobile. We built an airplane. We put a man on the moon. But let me ask you this, can you bust a 360-degree lateral spin in the 747 on a Tuesday morning? No, the FAA wouldn't allow it. Haters. The history books are gonna look back at this very moment. Forget the pyramids, forget the hanging gardens of Babylon. I'm going to present to you the undisputed, undefeated eighth wonder of the free world. I introduce to you the GPS Drift Quad.
All right guys, so here we have it all spread out for you. This is the Drift Quad roller kit. So the Drift Quad you can buy 3 different ways with 2 different tire packages. You can buy just the frame, which is frame, foot pans, and front axle with all the hardware you need to put those on. You can also buy it as a roller, which is everything you see here. It's enough to get you a rolling Drift Quad chassis. With that roller kit, you can do the street tire package, or you can do the racing wheel setup. Either way looks really, really sick, and they both ride good. So the third way is complete. Everything you see here, plus engine, header pipe, and a TAV kit. For what you get, this thing is priced extremely well. We will have this thing posted online. Links to each product, each tire package will be down below in the description. And then when you go to the website, you'll be able to see every part on here listed out. So let's get into it. So today we are putting together the rolling chassis. After this is all put together, we're going to tear it apart, take it to powder coat. Once it's powder coated and all pretty looking, then we'll do the complete build with the engine TAV kit. First, you obviously need the frame. This is the Drift Quad frame. It is stout, sturdy, very well built, tons of bracing everywhere. Unless you just crash this thing like crazy, it's never gonna bend or break. This thing is stout. I mean, we've been testing it for a solid year. Absolutely nothing has went wrong. It's a beautiful frame, beautiful design, really slick looking. It's like half mini bike, half go-kart. It's really cool how it's set up. You got a mini bike seat, but then, you know, like a go-kart axle, go-kart on the bottom, mini bike all up top. It's really cool how it's set up. So here's your front axle. The reason this is removable, if you do run into a curb or something and bend the axle, you can easily replace it. You got 4 bolts that hold it on. And it also makes it skinnier so we can ship it in a smaller box and get the shipping as cheap as we possibly could with the hardware. Right. Next up, we got the foot pans. These are also detachable. Again, to really skinny up the whole package. 40-inch, 1-inch axle. Brake bracket for the hydraulic brake kit. 8-inch brake disc, plenty of stopping power. 1-inch sprocket carrier, and then we went with the 420 chain. I already know a lot of people are going to want to run 35, but I'm telling you, for this, with how aggressive you ride it and all the G-forces you're putting down cornering, you really want the 420 chain. And with the 420 aluminum split sprockets, it's easy to change up your gear ratio just like the 35. Risers for the handlebars. And this is all rear axle components. You get 8 lock collars. I recommend you use all 8 because you want to make dang sure that your axle doesn't shift and your sprocket and your brake disc don't shift. Flangettes, bearings for the 1-inch setup. Again, just all axle stuff. These are the keys for the rear, 1/4 by 1.25 inch keys. Then these are for your spindles. These are the front wheel spacers. Unitank. If you buy the frame itself and want to rig up some different tank on there, you can, but it is specifically designed for the Unitank. Handlebars, 7/8 OD on these bars, so really universal. This is all of our handlebar accessories. Got a kill switch. You always have to have a kill switch. Grips. We decided to go with the thumb throttle for this kit. If you want to switch to a twist throttle, that's simple, easy to do, especially with the 7/8 handlebars. And then the nice beefy hydraulic brakes. Spindles. These are really sweet. These will be available to purchase by themselves. Really nice setup. If you have a yard cart, if you have an old go-kart that you're trying to spruce up with some racing wheels, these will allow you to do that because of this offset arm. So you can run them either way, raise your height, lower your ride height. Really universal. These are a sweet item. 5 feet of 420 chain roller. This is the hardware for the caliper, tie rods. The 2 tire packages really change the whole look of the unit. If you got the 15-inch street tires, they look huge on there compared to these. If you're pushing it super hard on a flat track, cruising the neighborhood, I would go with these. If you're doing any sort of riding in the grass or bumpy areas, go with the bigger set. You could always buy both. You know, we sell all of this stuff individually online. If you send us an email, we can link you right up with the tire package that you're looking for. 15-inch Ultimate Street tires. These are mounted on the 6-inch steel wheels. Fronts are the 5/8 bearings. The rear, you've got the 1-inch bore, keyed. Again, this setup is cheaper than the racing wheel setup. You could also paint these and spruce them up. These will not come as a matching color set straight from us, but you can paint them, you know, whatever color you want or powder coat. 15-inch mini bike seat. This is the seat that comes on our Rascal. Really nice product, simple, tuck and roll on the top. Really good looking on this drift quad. Again, all the hardware that you need for this kit comes with it, which is really nice. So these are all the tools that I used to put this GPS drift quad together. You need a metric Allen set of some sort. You need a basic socket set. I only used a few. I think I've got a 1/2, a 13, a 3/4, and 7/16, and then an 8. Very minimal tools are needed for this. If you don't have the big sockets for the spindle nuts and the axle, you just need a crescent wrench that opens up to at least 1.125-ish. You need a Phillips head screwdriver, which is only for the kill switch, a ratchet that matches your sockets, snips of some sort, dikes, cutters. I used an extension, makes it a lot easier to get down and to tighten up that brake bracket. You need a Sharpie or a pen, tape measure. I'd say definitely go with a tape measure because you got to go out pretty wide to, you know, measure your tires, make sure your front end's aligned, make sure you got your rear set perfectly. Standard wrench set, we only used a few. We've got a 10, 13, 1/2, 9/16, and 3/4. and then some sort of mallet, hammer. If you got a rubber mallet, that's good. If you do just have like a steel hammer, that's fine. You just want to be careful if you're tapping your axle not to bang up those threads. And the trusty impact. You can bolt this on one way and one way only. It's really foolproof. Slide it in from the side. Line up your bolt holes. Ready to bolt it on. You've got washer for the top and bottom. I always like to start all the bolts first. Just get the whole axle lined up. Then you'll come in with your washer and nut on the bottom. You can use 2 3/4 inch wrenches. You can use crescent wrenches, you know, whatever you have. I'm using impact 3/4 inch socket, 3/4 inch wrench. So when you tighten these, you kind of want to do them evenly. Just run this side down somewhat tight, go back and forth, tightening everything up equally. Next up, the spindles. So your arms go on the bottom and point back. So they will go just like this. Same thing on this side. Arm on the bottom, pointing back. Get a close-up of that, because this can be really tricky for people who have never done it before. I like to put that kind of right there. Spring in. Boom. Just like so. Second one's always smoother.
Yeah.
Same thing on these. Gonna be 3/4 inch tools. I didn't use grease on any of this stuff because we're about to tear it down and take it to powder coat. When we do the final assembly, I'm gonna put a little bit of grease inside of this spindle and on the bolt and even on the top of that spring. Gives you a little more free-flowing steering. So another really cool thing about this frame is the adjustability of the steering. You can really dial in your riding style, your goals, whatever you're trying to do, to this front end setup. Tons of different options on the spindles and tons of different options on the steering shaft. If you want a faster steering, you want to come further up on the steering shaft or the spindle, vice versa. If you want to turn really slow, this option. See how it's barely even moving? If you do the opposite, I don't even know if that'll turn it without the handlebars. This is going to turn super fast. Notice I'm barely even turning the steering shaft and your spindle is moving a lot. If you're drifting and you want really, really, really fast steering to be able to recover, you want to come somewhat like that. Maybe like halfway. So high speed cruising around the neighborhood, you're relaxed. You want it to turn slow. Drifting, flat track, you want a little quicker on that steering. So just dial it into your riding style and where you're riding. So I'm putting the lock washer in between the tie rod and your mounting point. That's going to give your tie rod optimum angle, I guess you call it. I don't know the technical term. It's going to allow your tie rod to float and move. So these are going to be 9/16. Front wheel spacers. Slide those on. So not a lot of people have a 15th, 16th socket. You can use any kind of pliers you have laying around. You set it down. You're gonna wanna put it back up in the air to check how tight your nut is. There's no crush sleeve inside these bearings. We have snap rings built into the bearing that bottom out against the wheel. So you want to get them all the way tight. That's what I want to see when I first tighten it. A little bit of drag, and then back off some. A little better, and it'll free up a little as you ride. That's pretty good. Same with this side. Not very free spinning. Let's get the handlebars on. That'll give us a little better idea of straight on the bars. Then we'll come in and I'll show you how to adjust these tie rods and align your front end. So for these, you need an 8 and a 6 Allen. Any standard metric Allen set will come with a 6 and an 8. So on these risers, there is offset front to back. The hole is drilled slightly off center. I'm gonna push my handlebars forward so that hole's gonna be further back. Make sure you match it side to side. The hole is going to go towards the back. These handlebars have the little grooves in them that keep them from slipping. So you want to get it pretty close. Those help you center them as well. Pretty easy to get them lined up. I'm going to point the GPS backwards. I'm just snugging these. Then I'm going to come in, tighten these from the bottom. These have a lock washer, so you don't have to crank on them like crazy, but you do want them tight. Bueno. Okay, now for these, pretty sure it's 9/16. Yep. So these are left and right-handed tie rods. And I'll show you in a second. Once you get everything loose, makes it super easy to adjust. So you want to get your handlebars straight as you can. And then I'm going to align these pretty much straight. So So equal measurement from the front of the tire to the back of the tire. This side I think is good, so I'm gonna lock this one down. When you tighten them, you wanna make sure the way that you're tightening, rock your tie rod ends that way. You want them to be, so if I do them, if I have that one bottomed out over here and this one bottomed out that way, you could get in a bind when you're turning. So have them both the same way. Run down the nut. Easy as that. Now you have all that movement. This one we need to bring out. So my front measurement is approximately 34.
And so the tie rod ends are for adjusting toe, correct?
Yeah, toe in or out. Straight up on these is gonna be pretty good, like a perfect alignment. If you toe it in, you're gonna get a little better handling at the low speeds. If you turn it out, when you're riding it aggressively, it's gonna handle a little bit better at the top end. You really just kind of adjust it to however you're riding. I would start out perfectly aligned. So on this one, I'm reading 34 inches center to center at the front and 34 inches just center to center at the back. So I'm gonna keep it there and then we'll ride it and adjust it. So these, I'm tightening the nut this way. So I'm gonna rock the tie rod ends like that. Check them. Good. Let's do the foot pans. Pretty self-explanatory. Boom. Then you got your nuts and bolts. I'm going to use the washer on the top and then just the serrated nut on the bottom. Since that is a serrated nut, you should just need a 10 for the top and then hold the nut by hand until it starts biting in. They have a little play, which is, I mean, due to manufacturing tolerances, you can't have a perfect slip fit on these. So we went a little undersized on the standoffs that these slide on. When you're riding and your feet are on here, they're not gonna be doing anything. For this, you need a 10, and I'm pretty sure a 12. Oh, 13. Now for this, the idea is we want it floating. So you'll keep it loose until you get your chain on. This can float side to side with your chain. So you should always have perfect chain to roller alignment. And then you'll tighten this up until the bolt is coming through the lock. Like so. Floats. Not gonna move. Good. Chain roller looks good. Okay, now we're moving on to the rear end. We're gonna start by mounting the brake caliper bracket. It's got a two 5/16 bolts and nuts that come for it. You're gonna use the washer on top with the bolt head, and then the two nuts on the bottom. These are a flanged, serrated nut, so you shouldn't even really need a wrench on the nut part. Okay, now let's set up the sprocket carrier with the sprocket. You get 6 1/4-28 bolts and then 6 1/4-28 flange serrated nuts. So the bolt is going to act like a stud. We're going to run it through this way, tighten it down, then we'll put our sprocket on and then the nuts. And I've got this impact on the lowest setting. I'm not torquing the heck out of these. This is pretty light. If you do not have an adjustable impact or you're not familiar with your adjustable impact, I would do these by hand. Hand and a wrench. Sprocket, they're always split where you can put it together and see the tooth count. So if you have that lined up, you're good to go. And you do have to line that up. If not, your teeth aren't going to line up quite right. So I like to run them down pretty close to tight, just like flush. So they're just touching the sprocket, but you can still move it. And then, like, notice you can spread it apart. You want to make sure you're compressing the sprocket. See how you can even move this around right here. You want to get it as close to perfect as possible and then tighten. Okay, so that is set up. Now we're ready to hang our bearings. I've got this one already started on this side. This is an equal triangle, so it does not matter how you orientate it, the orientation. Just line up the holes, put the bolts through, and then the nuts. If you get these tight, they will never come loose. They've got a lock nut, and then the bolts are a flange serrated head. They hold on there pretty good. So I'm just gonna snug these up to where you still have a little movement. That makes it easier to feed our axle and everything all the way through. So this is a 13 mil on the head and a 13 mil on the nut. Still got plenty of room in there. Now we can start fishing our axle through. So you're going to feed it through and see how you can move that easily with the bolts loose, and then it'll self-align on the other side. You got to kind of think about what you're doing here. It's even a good idea to lay out your stuff in the way that you're going to be sliding it onto the axle. So with this bearing, we need the bearing lock first. Boom. And then a lock collar that's going to act as like a slide stop for the axle so it cannot move. Then you need a lock collar for the brake disc, the brake disc itself, another lock collar. You're basically sandwiching the brake and the sprocket with 2 lock collars, and then you're putting stops for the axle so it cannot slide side to side. So we're good on the brake disc. Now we've got one for the sprocket itself, another collar, collar for the axle, and then the axle lock. Now here is where we're going to take measurements on our axle, make sure it's centered, then we'll tighten up these flangettes, put the locks on the bearings, and then we'll go from there. Let's see what 12.5 looks like. That's 12.5-ish. Oh, that's the ticket. Slightly over 12.5. And I'm not measuring off the flangettes because they are loose and different side to side. So I'm going right off the bracket. And it's barely over 12.5. Let's recheck it. Same thing. And good. That's our lock. These have set screws in them as well. I usually just remove them because I'm using the lock collar as the actual good heavy duty stop. Boom. We know that we have our axle where we want it, so let's go ahead and lock these down. Now with our 1-inch lock collars, you're going to use a 5mm Allen wrench. Good to go. So sprocket, you do just want to leave this loose until you get your engine and chain on there. But just so you can see it, you're going to roughly line it up with your roller just to get close, and then put your key. So put your key approximately where it's going to be. Collar, sprocket carrier, and other collar. I'm just going to leave these loose. Now for the brake disc, get your key in there. It's going to go pretty close to that bracket. Okay, so for the brake, fish this through here. It's going to go on there just like so. You line up these 2 threaded holes with your 2 holes on that bracket. And you got your 2 8mm bolts with a lock washer. Start these by hand and then go in and tighten them up with a wrench. You're good. 13mm socket. Yep. Everything's spinning free. It's nice. Rotating this over a few times with the sprocket loose just helps make sure you got it exactly where you want it. So now you'll come in here, make sure your key is in the brake disc. It is. Get your collars lined up, and we'll tighten those down. Still looking good. Good to go. Like I said, this is still loose. You do not really want to set this until you got your motor and chain on there. So bearings are tight, axle locks are tight, brake disc is locked in. From here, we're gonna put on our axle stops, our wheel stops and the wheels. So slide this on there and the wheel. Now, I'm going to set these a little bit inset from the front. So if I remember right, our front end measurement was 34 inches center to center. Yep, same thing on these, but we want them equally spaced on the frame. So right now we're at 33 and a half. That's really pretty dang good. That's a good look, and your front end's gonna grip a little bit better if you bring these tires a little bit inside of them. So we're roughly 9 3/4 off the frame. This side is 9. So we need to go 3/8. We're shooting for 9 3/8. So this one's got to come in. Shoot 9 3/8. Recheck our center to center, 33 and a half. 9 3/8. 9 3/8. Now don't go off my numbers. You know, there's tolerances when you're building a frame. So your measurements might be slightly different than mine. You might want your tires to be perfectly in line. You know, do it however you wish. Just make sure your tires are equally spaced off the frame. So we know we got the tires exactly where we want them, but we still have to tighten down that lock collar. So I've got it up against the wheel, and I'm going to mark the axle. Keeping the lock collar right on that mark. I'm going to tighten it down. Mark is still good. Go ahead and put our key in there. If you're having trouble getting them in, it's hard if you just hold it like that. So put one end in and tap it down flat. Same thing on this side. Originally, we had a shorter axle in this kit. We chose to go with the 40-inch because we want to be able to come out pretty wide back here and still have the entire wheel on the 1-inch part of the axle. So if you do not like how much axle is sticking out here, just mark it where you have 2 threads coming outside of the nylon, and then, you know, trim it however much you want for the desired look, which I will be doing when we do the final assembly on the powder coated version. So we'll just use a crescent wrench. I'll be sweating after this. Good. Good. Oh, that's nice. So the brake, I wouldn't do your final routing until you get the engine and the header pipe on here. But, you know, you want it pretty well out of the way. We can always do our little loop trick. Make a little loop under the seat. Always cleans it up nice. That's pretty good. But for our how far in you mount that brake caliper, you really got to have your throttle on. And these are little bitty set screws on here, 3mm Allen on that. It can only go on there one way, which they're shipped like this. But if you take them apart, just remember, I want that bottomed out. These bolts for the brake are they're a 6mm bolt with an 8mm head. I usually, just for looks, try to get the end of the lever even, or even a little bit inset from the end of the bar. And these are cast pieces on this brake lever assembly, so don't go hammering at this with an impact. Use a wrench, work them down evenly so your gap top and bottom is the same, and that is good. Now the thumb throttle, I'm just going to keep this wound up. So when you're sitting on the quad, you want to be able to read the GPS. It'll be pointing at you. That puts your thumb, the actual throttle lever, in the right spot. So you'll take out these 6mm bolts and then tighten them back up. This is going to be 4mm Allen. So this cap, you can actually put it on. It fits really well one way. You can put it on both ways, but it fits really well one way. Like so. Give it a little angle, because when you're riding, you know, you're going to be kind of like this. So this thumb throttle, it comes with 2 different length cables, two different throw cables. The length is the same. The amount of throttle cable inside the housing is different. So depending on what carburetor you're using, like if you're using the stock carburetor, you'd want to use the longest throw, because you got to go through all that stock linkage on top of the engine. If you're using a GPS 22, a 24 flat slide, a 28 flat slide, you'd want to use the shorter throw. And then the longer throw you'd also use for like the big carburetors, 32, 34, ones with the really long slides in there. Good. Now, oh, kill switch. Duh, you always have to have a kill switch. We definitely prefer the toggle switch like we're sending in this kit. The push button ones, you have to hold that down for it to kill the engine. If you just tap it, it doesn't work. This, you flip it and then your engine's off. Much, much safer. Remember, you're threading these back into plastic, so don't torque on them with all your might. You'll either break the housing or strip it out or something. Just run them down flush, basically. That's all you got to do. Got the bottom one pretty much where it needs to be, so I can still twist it around. That's a good angle. Good. So yeah, I barely even tighten those and it's locked down. When you put your engine on there, this obviously runs to your engine. This goes to your kill wire, and then this is the ground that you'll ground on a bolt through your engine block. We have mounted probably 1,000 of these seats on our YouTube channel throughout the years. I already have this one drilled and ready to go, but so I would set your tank and your seat on here at the same time so that you can get a good uniform look to them. You want to center up your seat on the frame rails, get it exactly where you want. Then you'll take a Sharpie, come under the frame, mark your holes whenever you have it perfect to your liking. Mark your holes with a Sharpie, take it off, drill those with a 1/4 inch drill bit, making sure you don't go all the way through and puncture the material. And then I like to start these threads with it off the bike. Just run one of the bolts in and out of each hole. Just makes it easier when you're trying to, do it all up under there. You can use a 13 or a 1/2 inch socket on these. Just get everything started by hand and then come in with a ratchet and tighten it all. Nice and centered, looks good front to back. So the Unitank, in the Unitank box, it will come with all the mounting hardware, and it comes with a couple different petcocks to choose from. You can use either of the petcocks on this frame. They both work well. So to set up your Unitank, we've done this on several videos too. You mark where you want your petcock. So you will have to, mock up the tank on there. This one, it just so happens that the little pre-drilled mark that we have that's right here is where that petcock is gonna go. So you drill it out with a 1/2 inch hole, pop this bushing in, and then pop in your petcock. And if you need further assistance on the Unitank video, we have a dedicated video just for that. You can get on our YouTube, type in Unitank, and it'll pull right up. The little brass inserts in this tank are really, really, really nice. And they're fine thread, and we send all this with lock washers. So you got everything you need. Run them down almost flush. The bracket here that the Unitank bolts to is slotted. We've got ours where it butts up perfectly to the seat. Follows that angled part of the tank pretty nice. So you could push this back as much as you want. Works out real nice. Same thing for this. It's gonna be technically a 1/2 inch socket. You can use a 1/2 inch or a 13. Nice. Chain.
Oh yeah, chains.
We do send this with the roller kit, like I already told you. You won't need that until you put your engine on. So we are done. All right, guys, here you have it. This is the first part of our build series on the GPS Drift Quad. This is everything you get for the GPS Drift Quad rolling chassis kit. This is the street tire version. I showed you at the beginning of the video that you can also get the racing slicks. I do recommend you do a dry mock-up before paint and powder coat just to make sure everything fits. This one went together perfect, so mock it up unpowder coated. You don't want to waste $200, $300, $400 and then realize you got to grind somewhere or something crazy. And it's good to mock it up, ride it, see if there's anything you want to change. If you're a fabricator, if you want to make some minor changes, go ahead and do so, and then get it powder coated. Please let us know what you think in the comments. If you like the video, please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what kind of colors you want to see on these. We're going to be building quite a few over the next year. So let us know what colors, let us know what engine packages you want to see on it. So this was part one. We are going to now disassemble. We are going to run it over to Carlos at Racing Wheel Repair, have him do his magic on it. We're probably going to do a desert tan and then black out everything else. I'm going to leave the wheels and tires here. And so in part two, you will see the racing tire and wheel package actually in action, mounted on the cart. So you have a visual side by side of what the two look like. I'm sure Bernie will do a fantastic job splicing those together. So stay tuned for episode 2, and we will see you in the next one.
Boom.